Hey guys, this is Jennifer Paige, and you're listening to the Positive Psychology of Pop Music.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Positive Psychology of Pop Music. I'm Wesley Ryan, and for the next 60 minutes, I'll be sharing the music and inspirations of an incredibly talented artist that I've been following for a very long time. Now, if you were a fan of music back in the MTV TRL heyday, I have no doubt you'll remember this artist's very first single. But hopefully, you've been aware that she's never stopped making music and has a true passion and talent that consistently blows me away. And if you weren't aware of that, well, just sit back because I'm about to give you all of the details. The artist I'm thrilled to spotlight in this episode is none other than Jennifer Paige, and she has just released a brand new album called Starflower, which you can download on iTunes right now. I was super stoked to get to chat with Jennifer about the album and its first single, which has already become one of my favorite songs of 2017. I could probably do a whole episode on how much I love this song and the psychology we can find in it, but I'll try to condense it into just a few minutes. I absolutely love the synthy sound production of the song. It actually reminds me of my favorite Nintendo game when I was a kid, Castlevania. Loves it. But more importantly, I connect with the lyrics of this song so much. In social psychology, there's a concept called lowballing. And no, it's not about a shot glass or anything else. It's the name of a compliance technique where someone gets us to agree to something without necessarily telling us all of the details or perhaps even changing them along the way. That's irritating when it happens in an infomercial, but it's typically more impactful when it happens in a relationship. And as I chatted with Jennifer, it became pretty clear that we both have experienced those relationships that feel great, but there's something about them that's not so positive, and we maybe even knew that from the get-go. So why do we do that? Well, Jennifer and I tried to find an answer for that question, but that really wasn't the point. We don't necessarily have to understand why we do something to know that it's a problem, and sometimes the right song can help us recognize that and change our behavior, or at the very least, understand that someone else knows exactly what we've gone through. So let's listen to Jennifer Paige chat about that brand new album Starflower and the amazing first single, Devils in the Details.
Well, I have to start with Starflower. I'm so excited. I know you've been working on that project for a long time. So how would you describe it?
I would say it's kind of like a reawakening to music for me. It's very authentic. It's very much a snapshot of where I am in my life right this second.
Where did the name Starflower come from?
It's actually named after my daughter, who's about 2.5 years old, and her name is Stella Rose. I call her Stella. We call her Stella, which means star, but her middle name is Rose. And one day somebody said, "Oh, a little starflower," and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so great." And so I just started kind of messing around with that word when I was in the studio one day and wrote a song around it. And so I just thought it would be perfect to name the album after her.
Oh, well, I love that it's named after your daughter. I had a completely different theory.
What was your theory? That's going to be awesome.
Well, I was listening to some of the tracks that are already on iTunes, and it just had such a synthy, atmospheric sound to it. And so Starflower kind of sounded like a Bowie-esque title to me, so I thought maybe that's what
Totally. It's very trippy. The song is very trippy. It's not like a mommy song at all. It's totally like kind of what you're imagining in your head. So I'll be very interested to see what you think when you hear the full song.
Well, my favorite right now is Devils in the Details. I absolutely am obsessed with that song.
Good.
What inspired the video for that?
Everything about this record has been very in the moment, and so which has been very different than any of the records I've made in the past. It's been more planned out, more kind of like strategic. This was really just, such a go with the flow type experiment in a way, and the video was the same. I've known the director, Jeff White Wilson, for probably 5 years, and I've wanted to work with him that long because I just had seen some cool music things that he had done that I just thought were super artistic and different from most videos that I've seen. So it kind of had like an indie vibe to it, and I love his style. So I just had him in my hip pocket, and when this came around, I reached out to him. And so I told him that I wanted to keep it really simple and just kind of tell the story. The story is kind of like a story about a relationship that's kind of in trouble and needs to reconnect, and so he just, I feel like, captured that feeling so well in the video, and he's just a really cool director.
Awesome. Well, I definitely would agree he captured that. My favorite lyric from the song, though, is "We jump to things that are bound to break."
It's so true, right? It's why do we do that?
Yeah, well, that was actually my question for you. I was hoping you could help me understand why I often fall for the completely wrong person.
Yeah. Well, I wish I had the answer for that, but I did it for a long, long time. It's so funny. That song it was really written out of frustration. Like we all go through frustrations in relationships, whether they're good or bad, and strong or flailing, I think the hard times are what makes or breaks us, right? So either the hard time can pull you closer, or it can break you up. And always in the past, it's been the thing that kind of broke me up, and which is why I never it never worked with people in the past, and now I'm married and stuff. And so I'm learning about like getting past those hurdles. Like, what does it take to get past those, common frustrations, and then beyond the common frustration, like when it gets a little bit more serious, like how do you overcome those things without just like burning out? And I think that's the thing with relationships is like you can kind of burn out because it's the life things that get in the way so often. I found it's like your personal frustrations that you kind of bring into the situation. And so, it's definitely a personal song, not like literal, but like it's just, built out of my own frustration. So I can totally relate to the lyric myself.
Reach out to things that are bound to break. Dig our heels and make mistakes. Wade in the water to under the waves. Reach out to things that are bound to break.
That was Jennifer Paige with the amazing Devils in the Details, the brand new single from her album Starflower, available on iTunes right now. We'll check out more tracks from Starflower in just a little bit, but for now, it's time to get into Jennifer Paige's musical inspirations. I always love chatting with the artists who've inspired me to find out who's inspired them. There's literally no wrong answer to that question. They could share a song that I absolutely don't like, but I would still enjoy finding out what it meant for them. But when an artist picks some of my favorite songs as their musical inspirations, well then it's game on. Now admittedly, I have some very random favorite songs out there that many people have never heard. But as Jennifer picked two of music's biggest icons ever, I suspect a lot of you out there will love these songs as much as we do.
I would say one of my earliest influence was Dolly Parton.
Yes,
Dolly
yes.
Parton. Because I was raised in Georgia and my aunt was a country singer. And so I don't know if you hear my daughter singing in the background.
I
She's
do.
wailing right now.
I
That's
love
hilarious. So she was a country singer and pretty well known around Marietta, Georgia, which is where I was raised. And so she was a huge inspiration to me, probably more so than anybody really, that at an early age, because it was the first person that I saw perform live, and she just had like an excellent singing voice and stuff. So, so anyway, she introduced me to Dolly Parton's music at a really young age, and my brother and I both were little singers. I was 5 and he was 6 or 7, and we would sing in different, talent shows and things like that. So the first artist that I ever sang was Dolly Parton, her song Music Man. And so I think I sang that at my 5th grade talent show, and she was a huge, star at the time, and still is.
Sing a song, sweet music man, 'cause I won't be there to hold your hand like I used to. I'm through with you. You're a heck of a singer and a power.
Mariah Carey was probably my biggest next influence. That was more like around high school age, and the song Vision of Love was like a game changer for me. I just remember practicing that song up in my room, like when I lived at home, with my parents, like just for like hours in a row, and just trying to sing every little lick that she sang. And so that was a huge influence, that song.
Treated me kind, sweet destiny, carried me through desperation to the one that was waiting for me.
Welcome back to the Positive Psychology of Pop Music, where this week we're focusing on the music and musical inspirations of singer-songwriter Jennifer Paige. You'll have to forgive me for being a little out of breath, as I can never resist the urge to land and make last every single note on Mariah Carey's Vision of Love. It is one of my all-time favorite songs ever, and I remember the very first time I saw the video for that track as if it happened yesterday. That is also true of the first time I heard Jennifer Paige's very first single, Crush, which happened to be on my favorite soap opera, Days of Our Lives. I know my fellow Days fans will enjoy reminiscing about Mike and Carrie, and I certainly enjoyed sharing that memory with Jennifer. But what was more important for me, and what I suspect more of you will relate to, was my favorite Jennifer Paige track, Sober. I remember the first time I heard that track as well, and it actually helped me get through my very first breakup. As many pop artists have made this analogy over the years, sometimes being in love is pretty similar to being drunk. It feels great, you're having a blast, but you may not really be aware of what's going on or the consequences that your behavior is causing. And sometimes when you sober up in the morning, you look back with some regret, some pain, and some I can't believe I did that. Well, those feelings can also be present after a difficult relationship. And Jennifer Paige's Sober actually helped me realize that the very first relationship I was in was not healthy at all. Like really, not healthy at all. So thank you to Jennifer Paige for helping me with that revelation and for sharing her thoughts on Crush and Sober with me and with you.
Well, speaking of drama, I love the new stuff so much, but I'm going to go old school on you for a bit if that's okay.
Okay, good.
Going to get a little personal. I remember I'm a huge Days of Our Lives fan.
Love it.
Yes, Carrie and Austin were like my 90s power couple. And then she gets with this guy named Mike, and then all of a sudden they're in a car and Crush comes on. And I'm like, what is this song? I love it so much. So were you aware that, I mean, people in Days of Our Lives fandom have a huge attachment to that couple and that song? Is that something that, you still hear about?
I definitely remember hearing about it a lot. I haven't heard about it in a while, so thanks for the throwback. But yeah, I mean, I just think like Crush was in a lot of movies and TV shows at that time, so it's funny how you can like, I don't know, like put music to something like a visual like that, and it can like stick with you forever. So I love that.
In a more personal and realistic relationship, I had an iTunes gift card for my 24th birthday, and it was right when iTunes was coming out, and so I literally just randomly picked up songs from artists, and I picked up Sober, and that song helped me get through my very first breakup. So personally, I wanted to say thank you for that song.
Oh, love that. I love that. I love when music becomes real, like that's what it's supposed to be. So that's great to hear. And yeah, Sober was one of my favorites from that album. It was very different from Crush, and I think, it definitely showed a different side of what I do musically.
I see the light, oh, the light, and I am sober. All that you serve to me, no longer will I drink it. I took the time to think it over.
That was Jennifer Paige with Sober, a song that helped me feel confident, empowered, and hopeful after the breakup of my first relationship. But as we all know, sometimes those feelings go away if we don't find a replacement love as quickly as we thought we might. And as the vast majority of us are social creatures who ideally want a relationship of some sort, we all know that being lonely can absolutely suck. And the next song on Jennifer Paige's list of musical inspirations is all about how sucky that loneliness can be.
Celine Dion was actually a big influence too, and it wasn't really her biggest hit. It was more like that first album that she did with songs like Unison and oh gosh, what was Where Does My Heart Beat Now? That song was a big one for me when I was kind of finding my own sound and my voice. That was a song I also just would sing a ton and just try and literally copy like notes and how she sang. I think she was like my voice teacher when I was, that kind of formative years. I would just listen to her phrasing and all kinds of stuff like that.
Where does my heart beat now? Where is the sound that only echoes through the night? Where does my heart beat
As a kid, I thought Celine Dion's Where Does My Heart Beat Now was literally about someone who could not physically find their heart and was looking for it. Like maybe Celine Dion lost her keys and was like, where are my keys now? Like she just lost her heart, couldn't find it. Somebody help me out. As I've said many times before, I was a very naive and odd individual, especially as a kid. Luckily, I'm old enough now to understand the meaning behind these songs just a tad better. Case in point, one of my favorite new tracks from Jennifer Paige's Starflower. Loneliness can make us do a lot of things, some good. Maybe the freedom of not being in a relationship allows you to spend more time with your family or friends, or to get a dog, or to start your own podcast and radio show maybe. But other times, loneliness can make us do some not good things, or at the very least, reach out to people from our past who we may not necessarily do. I know I'm not the only person on those lonely nights who scrolls through their phone and thinks, should I maybe text that person? And whether or not I do, I can certainly understand the emotions in the track we're about to hear. From her brand new album Starflower, this is Jennifer Paige with Forget Me Not.
Annie Lennox would be someone who just pops to mind, like really fast. That album, the whole album, Diva, was a huge, that was such a huge influence to me. I think that was the first time that I ever heard anybody take other people's songs and create new versions that were so, brand new songs. And so I didn't even know that those were old songs. I had no idea. Have you heard that song? Have you heard that album?
No More I Love Yous is one of my all-time favorite songs. So
yes. I remember my parents playing it a lot. My mom was a huge Annie Lennox fan. So, that was where that influence came from. But of course, I quickly adopted her as one of my favorites. And still to this day, I love her music. I have a lot of her albums on vinyl. And that's how I know that I really love a record these days, is like if I want to have it on vinyl, even after all those years, then I know, okay, that was like a huge influence. So Diva was definitely that. No More I Love Yous is definitely up there.
No more I love you. The language is leaving me. No more I love you. Changes are shifting.
Another song that kind of comes to mind in this moment, and we could go all day on this, but was Peter Gabriel's In Your Eyes. That song was such an influence on me. That was the first time that I'd heard anybody do layers like that. He's just so great with layers, layering vocals, layering music, and still somehow keeping it simple and telling such a story. And so that song was just incredible song. Especially the Paula Cole version. If you've never heard that version where he sings it live with Paula Cole was his background singer at the time, and they did a live version. It is, freakishly good.
Oh, I've never heard that. That's the first thing I'm going to do when I hang up is go find that.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's truly amazing.
I wanna be that complete. I wanna touch the light, the heat I see in your eyes.
If you're just tuning in, you are listening to The Positive Psychology of Pop Music, and this week we're checking out the musical inspirations of singer-songwriter Jennifer Paige. We just heard two of those fantastic tracks, Annie Lennox's No More I Love Yous and Peter Gabriel's In Your Eyes, a song my sister forced me to listen to nonstop when she was forced to drive me to school, and a song which I incorrectly thought contained the lyrics, I want to touch the light, the fetus heat in your eyes. I have no idea what I thought fetus heat may have meant, but again, Wesley Ryan, kid. Very weird. Also, I was not able to find that Paula Cole and Peter Gabriel collaboration on In Your Eyes. So if you've got it, head on over to thepositivepsychologyofpopmusic.com and shoot me an email to the link. I'm dying to hear it. So while I can't play that duet for you now, I have elected to play another from the artist we're spotlighting this week, Jennifer Paige, and someone I know you'll remember with fondness, Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys. It's a song with a theme similar to many we've played in this hour, but their voices blend together so beautifully, I had to make sure to include it in this episode. This is Beautiful Lie from Jennifer Paige and Nick Carter.
just shaking under. Feels like the world.
All right, we have time for one more song in this episode of The Positive Psychology of Pop Music, but before we get there, make sure you remember to head to jenniferpaige.com or thepositivepsychologyofpopmusic.com for all the information on Jennifer Paige's latest album, Starflower, as well as updates on when she'll be hitting the road, which I know I am very excited for. I want to thank Jennifer Paige for chatting with me about her own songs and her musical inspirations, and I want to thank you for listening. There is a lot of negativity in the world right now, and spoiler alert, I'm a big fan of the idea that music can get us through that. It certainly did so for me as a kid when I was going through a lot of difficult times, and there were many times where I felt like the artists singing my favorite songs were the only people who really loved me. Luckily that wasn't true, but it definitely highlights how powerful music can be for people. And so I'm always grateful to and inspired by such talented people like Jennifer who work so hard to inspire us with their music. Let's check out one last track from Starflower as we close the show. For The Positive Psychology of Pop Music, I'm Wesley Ryan, and with Let Me Love You, this is Jennifer Paige.